The Dark Tetra Dualies are a middleweight dualie that boasts an impressive ability to dodge roll up to 4 times and continuously shoot throughout, a property that no other dualie has. However, due to the way the weapon functions, it's considered to be outclassed by the other dualies. But fear not, let me give you some advice on how to get the most out of this weapon in SalmonRun. Stats. The Tetras are quite unique as a dualie, but also in the Splatoon series overall. For clarity, I'll refer to the different firing modes as walking mode and as turret mode, the latter being activated after dodge rolling. The damage for both modes is consistent at 30 damage per shot, which puts it among the weaker dualies and shooters. They have shot decay, having a minimum damage of 25. The ink consumption for both modes is the same at 0.8% per shot. In addition, in walking mode, the accuracy of the weapon is quite poor and gets worse when jumping. The Tetras are different in that they allow up to 4 consecutive dodge rolls and give the player the ability to continually fire throughout, which is something that no other dualie does. This encourages you to use dodge rolls frequently, and in theory you don't ever need to stop firing, but we'll discuss that a bit later on. Each dodge roll consumes 3% of your ink tank, which is the least of any dualie. Each dodge roll covers a moderate radius, which is more than the Dapples, equal to the Squelchers, but less than the Vanilla, Gluga and Dowser dualies. After completing a dodge roll, you enter turret mode and the accuracy and fire rate of the weapon is improved. The accuracy is improved by the fact that 2 reticules merge into 1 and your fire rate changes from 6 frames per shot to 5 frames. Ink consumption and damage remains unchanged. I'll talk about this in more depth at the end of the video, but there is substantial end lag on the dodge rolls, which can make the dodge rolls and subsequent inputs feel slow. Regardless, you're incentivized to dodge roll due to the better accuracy and increased fire rate, which is advantageous in most situations. The Tetra's ink tank is rather disappointing when you factor in the dodge rolling, constant firing, and then needing to throw bombs or eggs. It will drain fast. There is a 20 frame cooldown before ink starts recovering, however when dodge rolling, you'll need to wait till the roll completes. After throwing a bomb, you'll have enough ink to dodge roll 8 times, however you probably won't want to do this due to running the risk of emptying your ink tank and becoming stuck. You'll want to prioritise your main weapon and leave bombs for situations that really need them. Boss slaying. Tetras, like most other dualies and shooters, generally manage well with all bosses. They're a sort of jack of all trades with the ability to relocate and switch up priorities without much punishment. Steelheads can be taken care of with or without dodge rolling, although it's much easier with dodge rolls. Stingers, steel eels, fish sticks, flipper floppers and slamming lids are all manageable with or without dodge rolling. Scrappers can be tricky because they interfere with dodge rolling, so it's important to be mindful of them if there are 2 or 3 of them around you. Throwing bombs often limits the Tetras in various ways, so dealing with moors and flyfish in large quantities can be a bit troubling. It's worth using specials here if you have the right one. The major issue for the Tetras, and one you'll notice when playing at higher hazards, is its inability to cope with high HP bosses and its struggle against lessers. Due to its poor DPS and complete lack of AoE, it takes quite some time to make your way through these enemies. For example, it takes 14 shots to defeat one Quahog, which is insane to think about at HLM when the game frequently spawns them in clusters. Drizzlers and big shots are even worse at 900 HP and 1200 HP respectively. You will spend so much time attempting to defeat these. I'll speak more about the Tetra's efficiency in a moment, but my rule of thumb with any weapon that struggles like this is to have teammates around to help or to deploy specials. In addition, use the enemies to your advantage, shoot torpedoes back, utilise slamming lids, and ensure that steelheads take down other enemies. For night waves, you'll play in a similar fashion to how you use most weaker shooters. Dodge rolling in these waves is usually a way to protect yourself rather than using aggressively, as ink management management and safety take priority here. You can be effective during rush and grillers in a multitude of different roles. It's worth recognising what is missing. Tetras can help with filtering chum and small fry, or they can support with damage against the goldies and the grillers. It's worth recognising that as the only dually or shooter, you may have more freedom than other weapons, and you may need to play around supporting your team more. The same can be said for other night waves and during king fights. When you have the safety to dodge roll and fire with turret mode, you should unload DPS into the kings, but I often find myself running around the map, taking care of statics, protecting my teammates, and ensuring the map is painted. Weapon roll. It's worth recognising the benefits of a weapon like the Tetras before I discuss its limitations. All weapons have utility in some way, and weapon classes like dualies and shooters are often the easiest and most forgiving class. They're easy to use, usually have the best ink efficiency, have great mobility and limited end lag, and usually have the potential to take on all roles within a comp. In a vacuum, the Tetras are fine and will do basic things and allow you to do tasks moderately well, but because of their underwhelming DPS, it takes time to defeat bosses, and in a mode centered around time, you really have to make every second count. The Tetras are therefore supportive, with the ability to flex to more aggressive or defensive positions if needed. In addition, its dually privileges give it more freedom and means it can adapt to differing situations with relative ease. You can support your team by being fluid with your positioning. The key to getting the most out of weaker weapons is to realise that you won't be able to take down every boss on your own, and that more often than not, you'll run into situations where you've probably overextended or things have just developed into chaos, and the Tetras can't really save you here. But you can zip around the map and provide paint support, damage support, and static support. Being strict with your ink tank is a good way to support your teammates. Some dualies and shooters have what feels like an endless ink tank, but as the Tetras, you'll really need to manage this well if you want to help them. The last thing you want to do is dodge roll, run out of ink, and not be able to assist your teammates. Be strict with bombs and ensure that you've always got enough ink to escape or even revive others. Support in SalmonRun is very underrated or just flat out ignored, so weapons like Tetras, whilst they feel underwhelming from a DPS point of view, don't always feel great to use, but they do have utility in supporting. And support looks like a lot of different things. There isn't a strict rule with how you support your team. The only thing that is common amongst supportive weapons is that you'll likely struggle with self-sufficiency, meaning it can be a risk to go out on your own and fight 3 big shots, for example. You'll often find that as the Tetras, you might be the only dually or shooter, or you might be the only mobile weapon, and if that's the case, you may spend the wave ensuring you're helping to protect your teammates and helping them defeat bosses. One of the best ways to do this is through proactivity. Proactivity is often the best route to take with weaker weapons, and the Tetras will benefit this way too. I'd use extreme caution when attempting to lure, and I'd really recommend taking out problematic bosses and lessers sooner rather than later. The Tetras will not be able to save you if you let too many enemies stay alive. You can't pierce, you have no AoE, and your damage is lackluster. Foresight and awareness can make any weapon good, and this is how you can comfortably take on more of a slayer role too. The Tetras will struggle if you're overrun, so the answer is quite simple: don't let yourself become overrun. Limitations. When I make these guides, I usually try to focus on the positives, but it would be remiss of me to ignore the bigger picture with the Tetras. Understanding its limitations within SalmonRun is just as important and is how you can make the most out of what you have. Dodge rolling in SalmonRun is used primarily for 2 reasons. The first and most important reason is to gain a buff, either with damage, range, fire rate, etc. These buffs are what make the dualies unique and extremely versatile within comps. With shooters, they're consistent, but with dualies, you have the ability to change the way your weapon fires to exploit these buffs. The second reason why you would want to dodge roll in SalmonRun is for protective reasons. Dodge rolling to escape enemies is one of the strongest mechanics that the dually has, and it means it can survive situations that would otherwise defeat most other weapons. Dodge rolling serves aggressive and defensive purposes. So, Here we come to the Tetras, and I suspect the reason why they feel so lackluster, to put it politely, is because they just haven't translated over to SalmonRun very well. Those 4 dodge rolls and the fact that there is no interruption to your firing is an insane mechanic in PvP. A good Tetra player is a nightmare because the weapon gives them movement no other weapon can replicate, and this can lead you to really struggle to take them down. But here we are in SalmonRun with a weapon that can, dodge roll 4 times, but why do you need to dodge roll 4 times? If you want to enter turret mode for the fire rate buff, then you should ideally dodge roll once to conserve ink. There is no buff or requirement to dodge roll 4 times in SalmonRun, it just wastes ink. Or you do it to use it to escape harm, and that does make sense. But at 12% for 4 dodge rolls, you'll soon find yourself struggling to maintain ink. There is no stopping in SalmonRun, especially at higher hazards. You are almost constantly engaged in some level of fighting, whether it's with your weapon, or bomb throwing, or even objective-based tasks such as egg throwing. These are all ink-hungry tasks. You gain no benefit from sharking or being too passive. In most situations, you are just wasting time. SalmonRun needs you to be fighting 24/7, so if you have a weapon that has a feature that is quite ink-hungry with no real incentive behind it, why would you use it? Or would you rather conserve ink in any way possible? For me, at least, dodge rolling 4 times serves no purpose when I can dodge roll once, exploit the fire rate buff, and then potentially dodge roll another time to escape or to switch targets. There is just no incentive to me to spend that much ink most of the time. Another reason why the Tetras feel quite limited is because they are terribly outclassed in almost every single metric. Range, damage, accuracy, speed, fire rate, ink efficiency, the list goes on. I've always wondered why the Tetras feel so hard to like compared to other Dualies. Why doesn't it have better damage or better ink efficiency? For those unaware, weapons are buffed for SalmonRun, often to compensate for the higher damage needed and subsequent ink usage. Most weapons are buffed for this, only a handful have similar stats to PvP. The damage for the Tetras was increased by 2, which is so inconsequential, you're left asking, what was even the point? I mean, its fall-off damage is heavily buffed, thankfully, but I don't think that makes any meaningful change. And then its ink tank is exactly the same, at 0.8% per shot and 3% per dodge roll. I mean, in theory, this isn't bad at all, especially compared to the heavy-hitting Dualies, such as the Glugers and the Dowsers. The Dowsers actually are a fair comparison. They are the newest Dualie to the series, and they have better damage, better fire rate, better perks for dodge rolling, and at the time of writing the script, just got another buff to shot speed. And so I can't be the only person thinking, what the hell is wrong with the Tetras? Did they forget that this weapon exists? Bizarrely, the Tetras also suffer with having the longest rolling state, taking 66 frames to fully complete. There's more technical information in the description, and I don't want to go into too much depth, but this process is another reason why the Tetras can feel sluggish in SalmonRun. The Glugers and the Dowsers have faster rolls, which almost feels a bit unfair. I know the Tetras compensate for this by having lower ink consumption per roll and the ability to roll 4 times, but like we've mentioned, do you need to do that? On paper, there is a lot to like about the Tetras, but in practice, they just fail at every hurdle. Do I think they're the worst weapon in SalmonRun? Truthfully, I do, but do I think they're useless? No, because no weapon is truly useless. So if I'm telling you that the Tetras fail at every benchmark, then how do you use them effectively? Well, the game asks a lot of you, especially at high hazards. At lower hazards, you may not recognise these limitations, and I think that's why people often disagree when I state that this weapon is bad. What's not to like about a weapon that is easy to use, can recover ink fairly quickly, and can move about with freedoms that a lot of other weapons can't? It's at the higher hazards that these limitations start to appear. The game asks so much of you. Ink management, boss prioritization, defensive versus aggressive plays, managing objectives, time management, and the Tetras struggle balancing these things. When you're left on your own and you have nobody helping you, you'll struggle to keep up. You struggle so much just against Cohocks, and if you're caught in the end lag of that last dodge roll, you're so vulnerable. My advice for weak shooters and dualies, like the Aerospray and like the Junior, is to always think about using bombs as part of your strategy, to counteract the fact that the damage isn't very strong, but also to give range and AoE. But with the Tetras, you have to make the conscious decision to either bomb or dodge roll. It's really hard to do both. 75% of your ink tank is consumed with a bomb throw, so you really need to think about whether you want to spend your ink dodge rolling and firing, or whether you should stay safer and throw bombs. The downside to this is if you choose to forego dodge rolling, you're then left with using walking mode, which suffers from poor fire rate and even worse accuracy. But learning how to balance dodge rolling and using the weapon aggressively, or choosing to conserve ink and playing a bit more defensively, is actually the best way to improve with this weapon, in my opinion. You don't have much else here, you're going to be very limited in what you can achieve, so opting to try and use it like other dualies will just make you hate them even more. The biggest advice I can share for the Tetras is to understand its limitations in the entire context of the mode. Every weapon can kill every single boss, but you need to factor in risk, time and ink when doing so. There's only so much you can do, so being supportive usually benefits you, as you'll have the help. Specials are also vital when using the Tetras, and in a game of SalmonRun, you have 8 specials for 3 waves. If you need to use both of yours to get through the wave that you have the Tetras for, then I'd sincerely recommend it, either to help you manage your ink tank or to help increase your slaying power. When you have only 100 seconds per wave, you've got to think in terms of efficiency. The Tetras are a hard weapon to like in SalmonRun, and I've spent a lot of time trying my best to like them, but regardless if I do or I don't, you can get good results with them, and they do allow you to play the mode in ways that other weapons can't. You might just need to temper expectations and accept that there's only so much one little pair of unloved dualies can do. I hope this video helps you appreciate the Dark Tetra Dualies a little bit more, or at the very least helps you get a bit more out of them. I've left some further guides and reading in the description. I'll catch you guys soon.